Investing in digital assets are on the rise, and more than ever, the everyday investor is hungry for analysis, signals, and tools on where and when to invest. Since 2016, King Bless, the CEO of KRBE Digital Assets Group, has been consulting and creating educational content around trading and investing cryptocurrency. His community of investors listen to his insights because of the research and due diligence that he provides. Literally, he eats, sleeps, and breathes crypto. What makes a project unique among the rest? And how do projects build trust to investors and users? King Bless shares his insights with us in this episode of Crowdcreate Insights. If you are developing a crypto project and looking for investors, learn exactly how to work with an influencer like King Bless. You can learn how we can develop your crypto influencer outreach program at crowdcreate.us.
Hey, Ivan, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, how's your President's Day weekend going?
President's Day is great. The market rebounded early this morning. People are awake for some of those trades. So everything is off to another good start today and this week.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the more we hear about this movement, because we just hit those all-time highs, a lot of people are wondering, hey, what projects should I get into? Or, what are those top projects that, another thing people say is the alt season, but which altcoins do we go into? And so a lot of people have a lot of questions, from the newbies to also the crypto enthusiasts. They're always looking for, hey, what's the next big thing? Who's investing in what? So yeah, you are an influencer in this space and you see all of these things. You work closely with the project. What do you think, as an influencer, what are you looking for in projects, and how do projects work with you as an influencer?
That's a good question. Yeah. So a couple of things. First, for me personally, when I see a project, the first thing I look for is like, is this a real product, or you talk about ICOs, or you talk about ICOs, like, could your ideal be a real product or project? Could it actually work and come to fruition? Is the roadmap good to go? And I ask that because a lot of times we saw this a lot in 2017 with the ICO craze. People had all these different projects, 80-page, 90-page white papers. I used to tell a lot of the businesses that threw white papers our way to do reviews or whatever. I'm like, look, the Bitcoin white paper is only 9 pages total, with the 9th page being resources. Why is your project 80 pages? What are you doing in 80 pages that is so much greater than Bitcoin? Or if what you're doing, is it actually greater than Bitcoin? Or could we just use the Bitcoin blockchain? We found in 2017, which is why a lot of those ICOs didn't make it out past a year or two, is that they didn't really solve any real world problems. So my thing is, first is like, all right, do you solve a problem? Like, do you solve a problem? Is this an actual product or project you can get off the ground and get moving? So those are the first couple of things I look at. After that, I start to look at community, because it's like, hey, you can have the best product in the world, the best project in the world, but if no one's paying attention, no one's listening to you, if you don't have influencers out there, if you're not, banging down the door of different crypto enthusiasts, then no one's going to pay attention, because these are I think it's here to say now. We've seen it. Doesn't matter what the big guys and girls think anymore. It doesn't matter how big your wallets are, how much money you have, and all this other stuff with the institution you're at. We saw with Wall Street bets, they can take down the stock market, right? They can take down some companies. And in crypto, that is amplified. If you thought what Wall Street bets did to Wall Street was crazy, in cryptocurrency, that is amplified. You can have everything going for you and your company. If no one likes you, they will try to do everything in their power to destroy you. And oh, by the way, some of those people who might try to destroy you are actual hackers and can actually destroy your company. So again, it's one of those things for me. I look at the project, the product, and then the community as well.
That's interesting you bring a Wall Street Bets. I know Wall Street Bets is right now, I think they're contemplating creating a token of their own. A lot of interesting ideas are coming out of there. But at the end of the day, they have that power as a community to deploy people's as investors, or even to, like you were saying, shut down projects. So, there's good and there's bad attention. But I guess the one question that a lot of people have been asking has been, how do you even get that attention in the first place? Like, how do I even get noticed by Wall Street Bets? And, the way Wall Street Bets is growing now, it's even harder within those communities to get noticed, because there's just so many members and just so much noise. So how do you get above that noise? How do you get your project there so that people are talking about you?
Right. So, it's kind of like one of those things where it's building a house one brick at a time, right? Initially, unless, again, for some businesses, they're in a better position because they do have a marketing department. They do have resources and capital where they can get their word out wide and far. But for other businesses, they might not have it. So whichever business you are, the first thing you have to do, again, actually have a working product or project. That would be the first thing. Granted, you could drive your market cap up. You can make whatever project you have going on valuable in terms of speculation. We saw that with Tron. Justin Sun came out, great marketer. Everyone, I mean, that's the one thing everyone kept saying is like, he is a great marketer, no real project behind it. Like no one believes in it or whatever, but he drove the price up. I believe it was in the top 10, top 15 for a while. Everyone loved it. But we seen what happened to Tron slowly fade away because people realized, all right, he had all the hype, he had everybody talking about it, but nothing has come since. So the first thing to get noticed by everyone, I would say, is to actually have a product, have the project done, at least the beginning stage. I mean, some of these companies have 10 to 15 developers and still don't have anything to show for it. So the first thing I would say is have something to show, right? Have a working product. The second thing is you go after the community. That's when you actually go to the people on YouTube or on Twitter or wherever else, where all they do in their free time or for their job is just to review projects, and not necessarily just review them to talk on YouTube or Twitter, but to actually get in there and use them. I know before the show, we were talking about DeFi liquidity pools and airdrops and everything. And it's like these companies who are making these decentralized applications, or these people, because sometimes, they're being made by one or two people in their office, but when these projects are being made, they're deploying them and they're offering rewards, maybe not up front. They're not telling people, but people are finding out like, hey, we use this project, maybe they'll airdrop or something. Or if we're involved in it, maybe we get new news about what's going to happen next by being involved in the Telegram groups. Maybe on the Telegram group, the CEO or the co-founder mentioned that, hey, we might be partnering with Google next or Amazon next, where they went and released that to the general public. So from the project side, I would say have a working product and then start onboarding users, right? And you have to give them rewards. Either you reward them by giving them tokens, you reward them by giving a stake, maybe in future plans, but it has to be some type of reward. And from what we've seen, the more people that come on board and start using these projects and they actually work and they're actually good, they're going to do all the work for you. They are going to tell everyone for you. Those people will come to my Telegram groups. They'll hit us up on our YouTube and be like, but have you heard of so-and-so yet? And usually we'll go back, check it out. And if it's a good project, the next day or next week, we're like, whoever's mentioned that, they're right. This is a good project. Next thing you know, you got people tweeting about it. And it's just that network effect of people being people.
Now, I think that's a good transition to my next question is like, that fits, well into what you do. King Bless, you're an influencer, you've run these communities. And I know a lot of people come to you as a resource, not only from, which are the exciting projects, but also on a very fundamental level. I know you've done a great job and you've spent a lot of time educating people that are just trying to get in. But I think that does put you at a very interesting position as an influencer. Kind of like what you're saying, like getting these people to talk about projects. How do you see you fitting into that ecosystem? And also to speak on behalf from other influencers like yourself.
Yeah, so I think you have two types of influencers out there right now. I'm trying to see the best way to explain it. And some, okay, I don't want to say like money hungry, but you have influencers out there who, just like some companies who goal is to like, hey, I don't care what we're talking about or how we're talking about. Our goal is to get these businesses across the desk, get paid to review them or to talk about them or referral links or whatever. And that is like their day job. Their day job is whatever new project comes out, you got referral links. Oh, I'm about to send 1,000, 2,000 people your way. I'm gonna get my 30% commission or whatever. And they would do that from project to project and so on. And then you have the other side, which is I think myself and my business partner, Bitcoin Zay is on, is like, we're trying to build with the community. Just like everyone else, we might have been in a little bit longer, but we're still learning. There's always new stuff in crypto coming out. But with this side, where it's like, we're not money hungry. We don't necessarily need the money. We have other things going on. Of course, Bitcoin Zay have his book. I do all types of things in Hollywood. So this is something we want to do, right? So with that, what we saw for us personally, like in 2017, ICO craze is going on. So many ICOs in different companies wanted us to do reviews, or some of us actually wanted us to come on board as advisors and push their project and their token. And we said no to so many of them. And we had to have that sit down where it was like, we could literally be millionaires overnight with some of these projects. Like we literally could be millionaires overnight working with some of them, some of the things they were offering. But we could tell just from the project itself, it wasn't fully ready to deploy. And also, some of them had those scammy vibes to it. It was like, it's not worth jumping into it. So when you talk about these businesses, I think they need to identify what they're doing. Some businesses are coming to the space. like some of the influencers where it's just like, nope, Bitcoin's going crazy. We want to get in, make our returns and get out. We've actually seen that with a couple of notable people. Kramer, money, the man, Mad Money or whatever, Kramer, Jim Kramer on CNBC. He got in, I think, 17,000 and sold at 25,000, right? Like he's telling everybody like, all right, this is my mark. I'm getting at, he said, I'm getting at 17K. Like this is the genius move to make. And then I'm getting out at 25. And it's like, all right, not only are those weak hands, but for that project, for that project and their goals, or for that person, their investment strategy, that was a good investment, especially looking at the traditional market. Got in at 17, got out at 25. You put a few $1 million to that, you made a great deal of money. Elon Musk recently just put up $1.5 billion, bought $1.5 billion in the crypto. And I think within like a week, they're like, yep, sorry, up like 200, 300 million or whatever. So
amazing, right? That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So you have to decide as a company, are we a company that's going into the space to make our money, to make our returns and run, or are we a company going into the space to stay? And that is a very important decision. Everyone, like culturally, that's a very important decision your company needs to be on board with, because people like myself, we're going to be able to sniff it out easy. And if it's one of those things we do sniff it out and you're not being upfront and about your project, or there's all type of secretive things going on and details everyone doesn't know about, then people are more likely going to be the ones to point at that project and say, it's probably a scam, whether it's a scam or not. If something's off about it, they're too private, it's going to seem like a scam. So yeah, again, when it comes to working with influencers, you need to identify which types you want to work with, what are your goals as a company. And I think once you do that, it's so natural in this space. There's so many people who actually enjoy this stuff. It just kind of works itself out.
I like that. It's funny because a lot of the conversation is always about, how do I work with an influencer? But, from what I'm hearing from you, it's like, hey, the company itself needs to do the due diligence and almost position them, their project in the best light so that an influencer would get on board. Because from what I'm hearing, a lot of these influencers do it because they love it, not necessarily because, hey, they see it as a job. It's because it's their passion. So to find that connection, right?
For sure. And again, it goes back to the product itself. It's like, do you have the next big thing? Because this is new technology. If you have the next big thing, or you're working on something unique, like I like technology. I like it. I like video games. I like technology. I like getting all the new gizmo and gadgets, the new iPhones. I like it. And so do many others in this space. So it's like, if you have a product or a project you're working on, some type of new tech or something cutting edge or different, we're talking about DeFi, liquidity pools, or NFTs, right? And all this other stuff, then people are generally going to become interested in it. And once again, people are generally interested, as a company, you start your Telegram groups or your Discords, or your Bitcoin forum is a huge one still that a lot of people still don't really use. You get on Bitcoin forum, you get your Telegram group going, you get your Twitter group going, and you're talking about the project daily. You have to have someone in that space to keep people updated and to make sure your project is public. The minute your project goes darker, to get secretive, you gotta remember the whole culture of cryptocurrency is decentralization, open source, sharing, letting other people inside of what you're doing. People don't like secrets. So again, if a project comes out, something's cutting edge, they develop their Telegram groups, they develop their Twitters. I mean, it is literally as simple as sending some of these influencers a 2 to 3 line sentence of, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, check this out and let us know what you think. And I'm telling you, if it's a good project, it's a good product, you could blast, email, make sure you blind carbon copy people, because there's a lot of companies in this space who have embarrassed themselves where they have sent emails out to hundreds of influencers, CCing everybody. and that's actually funny, is how a lot of influencers know each other. That's a running joke. Everybody always replies all, and just like, here we go again. It's like, oh, haven't seen so-and-so in a while. But it's like, for the company, oh, you're dead in the water, because people are on this email thread now. Like, these people don't even know how to BCC somebody. You think somebody's about to talk about your project? So again, but it is that simple. If you do that mass email, you BCC people, not with a page of literature, but with that 3 or 4 sentences of, this is who we are, this is what we're doing. Hey, check it out. Here's your login. Here's your 5 free tokens or whatever. Play around with this. I am telling you, people would naturally start talking about it, because as an influencer, one of the things we look for is content and trying to be the next big thing, right? All the investors are always asking, what's the next Bitcoin? What's the next Bitcoin? But as an influencer, whether it's Bitcoin or whatever project, If you can talk about it and the project does well, and of course, people love to talk about the money side or the financial side, people make money off it, then you're golden. So it's something we look for. We want to talk about good projects, but it's also one of those things as an influencer, you have to be careful because if the project ends up being a scam and you've been pumping that thing, I mean, you're pretty much dead in the water as well.
No, that's good, and thank you for sharing. It's so funny because in the marketing world, yeah, it's the same thing. You know, those early projects make those simple mistakes. It just gives a bad rap, especially for influencers who know each other, especially in the crypto space. I feel like that's a very tight knit community, right?
It is, but and this was the crazy thing about those early mistakes. You are right about that, and I'm glad you brought up. So traditionally, companies, institutions, the legacy systems, they for whatever reason are all, and I kind of get it. You're dealing with people's lives, finances and careers, but they are so scared to make mistakes, they end up making worse mistakes, right? Or they're so scared to make mistakes. When they make those mistakes, they don't want to talk about it. Like we are seeing that with the Robinhood founder right now. That everyone's asking him, what was the issue for you to stop trading? Did you get a call from the government? Did a hedge fund tell you to stop it? Was it a liquidity issue? He would not answer those questions straight up. And because of that, he's losing business. Now, if he would have came out and actually answered the questions straight up, hey, a hedge fund told us to stop, or a government told us to stop, or there is a liquidity problem. While that may not be what everyone wants to hear, everyone might not agree with it or like it, at least you're honest and people can work with that. And some of my background, the reason why, I talk about this corporate playbook and what businesses need to do and transparency. I used to do PR for the United States Navy. So I was a PR officer for years. And one of the things we learned early on was just be transparent. Like you're going to get caught in a lie, be transparent, because as a military officer or the Navy or the military, we start lying to citizens here or abroad, then nobody's going to believe us. We're going to lose all credibility and things are going to get worse. It works the same way for a business. You get hacked. Guess what? You're not the only one who got hacked. Equifax got hacked. Deloitte got hacked. Like so many crypto companies have been hacked, right? You have an exploit. There was a double spin. Something happened bad. The companies in the crypto sector, they have to come out and be open with that. Like transparency is one of the biggest things in the crypto space. And that again is with institutions, legacy, financial systems, some that they lack that transparency, because on Wall Street, everybody's about my trading algorithm is better, or my investment strategy is better, or my this is better. And if they come to crypto with that attitude, no one's going to want to work with them.
There's definitely like a open source mantra in the blockchain space. Like people want to work with you, people want to share the project. And also just to add on to that point is that today people are just so much more educated. Like with Robinhood, people know what's going on behind the scenes. He's not necessarily hiding anything because everybody kind of sees behind the veil because people are very educated. It just makes it that much more easy to explain what happened. But you're right. The moment, people lose faith in your honesty and transparency, it's like, especially in the blockchain industry, where
especially in this industry, it's so big.
When there's so many, we come from a past where there's so many scams and SEC is looking into projects and people just have that red flag immediate. And that's actually why a lot of people would want to work with you. Someone that holds themselves to a level of reputation. And when you talk about a project, you vetted it, you've done your due diligence. And I actually think that's why people like you are so critical to this entire ecosystem. It's like, right?
And I appreciate that. And it's something we definitely pride ourselves on. And again, just looking at influencers, that's the other thing when it comes to companies, like, all right, how can we work with these influencers? That's why I said, you got to make sure you know your goals. If your company goal is like, and it's okay, whatever. If the company goal is like, hey, we're a Wall Street institution, but we just see the money play on this thing, we don't know how long it's going to last, then you probably will want to go with the influencers who are with you, who's like, oh yeah, we know, like I said, we know how to get the referral links. We know how to get this going or whatever. That's what they do. And that would align with that company's goals. But if a company is okay with saying, hey, this first 3 to 5 years might be a little slow. We're going to be building. We're going to be doing the things the right way, but we'll be here for another 20 or 30 years. Then that's a different thing. You have to find those influencers. And it is split 50-50. But again, one of the easiest ways to do that is, say a company comes to work with myself or Bitcoin Zay. We review their product. We watch them for a while. We see them continue to do good things. What will happen next is like, hey, have you not talked to Crypto Blood over here, CB News Network? Like, he's been in crypto forever. You haven't got an interview with him? Oh, you haven't talked to whoever? Oh, this guy, And that's just the way it works, because the space is still so small. You already alluded to it. The space is still so small. Like the majority of people do know each other. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, since it's a global currency.
Yeah, that's awesome. So actually, I wanted to kind of switch gears, and the reason why I bring this up is because of your experience. You've had experience in the PR world. You're a marketer by many levels, and you're an expert. And so not only you're wearing the influencer hat, but you're also a marketer, and you understand, as an influencer, you understand how to get attention, but you also know a lot of the fundamentals, which I know we've talked about, because we were on masterminds together and just chatting with a lot of the other blockchain influencers. But you understand things like pipelines and funnels, and you come to the table with a very different set of sets. So with that marketing knowledge, and you where you are as an influencer, do you think that's something that blockchain projects are slowly getting into, kind of seeing the traditional funnels, sales pipelines, and doing all of those kind of techniques?
Yeah, so they're slowly getting into it. They're now they're so here's the biggest issue I've seen with like almost, I won't say all, but many blockchain projects, especially early on. It's not as bad. The last year or two has been a lot better, but I got in 2016. So let's say 2016, 2017, 2018. Some of the things I immediately saw was like, wow, you developed this project. You're the developer. Why are you the CEO? Like, why are you the operations manager? That does not always translate. Actually, it rarely translates. Like, you're a very good developer, and that's good, but a business person is a very good business people. People always forget that, like, business is sport. It's a sport as well, almost. So I say that because a lot of projects are shooting themselves in the foot, where they're like, hey, this is my baby. I created this. I'm gonna do everything to make this thing blossom. I'm gonna talk to influencers. I'm gonna get this project pumping. But it's like, but you don't even understand how to do it. Like, you're not a business person. You're learning that on the go. And I'm glad you brought up those funnels and pipelines, because again, we haven't seen that. But the moment this thing does start getting big, and we're kind of seeing it starting getting big, Elon Musk and everybody coming in. When you get those companies come in, you better believe there are going to be pipelines for everything. Everything you click on will be a call to action to go do something, to join something, and it'll lead you to the next pipeline up the stream of that project. Again, we're not seeing that right now. A lot of things are just kind of everywhere, because, hey, we're all figuring this thing out right now. That's why we're doing these type of chats, where it's like the corporate playbook, what do you need to do next? But that is one thing people have to consider.
Yeah, and we've actually seen the companies that are doing those things really shoot out in the front. Like, just an example, something as simple as the onboarding process. A lot of these projects, it's so difficult to even create an account. And just off the top of my mind is just, companies like Coinbase, or I know Robinhood's getting a lot of bad rap right now, but they made it so easy to get in.
They did.
Because they had great click funnels, they had great process flows, and even a project like Celsius, you come in, you get a great customer experience. I feel like the industry is definitely growing up, and you're seeing a lot of these enterprise, the tools behind enterprise companies today are actually moving towards the blockchain world, where they're adopting a lot of these really good marketing techniques. So, but you also say, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, I was going to agree with you. Like, that is the next step we're seeing. I remember a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at those websites like Celsius and others, I'm like, these things are modernized, right? Like, they're looking great. They are developing those pipelines. Like, it is starting to come, but that's because, again, this past year or so, you really had a lot of corporate interest and institutional interest, again, who came with those resources. Like, what is this website? Like, what's going on here? And it's crazy because we see this switch happening recently within the last 12 or 18 months. You are right. But again, 2016, 2017, a lot of those websites were antiquated websites because, and I get it, no problem. But they were doing it because the developer and the small teams were working on the actual projects. They weren't working on making our website and a click funnel look beautiful for you to get involved. They were more concerned about, hey, let's make sure this thing actually works. One of the reasons why Bitcoin was so susceptible to FUD. I mean, even right now, as it's at almost $50,000, it's a lot better, but it used to be so susceptible to FUD because people just, all the developers were working on the project. There weren't influencers yet. There weren't all these other people. The earliest influencers, I remember I used to watch like Chris Dunn. Initially, I didn't understand a lot of stuff he was saying because I wasn't, the literature was too difficult for me at the time until somebody really broke it down, like most people in crypto. But, again, those developers at the time weren't looking for YouTubers. There weren't people on Twitter all hid their faces. So, Twitter name could be Joe Farts trying to tell you about the next big thing, right? And you're like, I'm not listening to you, Joe Farts. Like, but so these things weren't there initially. But again, now as more resources have come, I have started to see more projects and more developers kind of hand it over, or at least work with others to build those pipelines, to modernize those websites, and to actually make, like you said, signups easier, because that was a big issue, just onboarding people.
Yeah. And I actually see that there's almost a parallel here in that the influencers have filled this role where, like you were saying, before you had a Twitter handle where, you don't even know who was behind that Twitter, but now the fact that influencers are creating their own space and they have a reputation, they have a following. I think it's also a piece of the puzzle of how this entire ecosystem is developing and maturing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just the amount of influencers too. I mean, when we first started doing our YouTube, I think there were only 2 to 3 maybe other YouTubes or podcasts at the time. We started ours in, I believe, like May, June of 2017. So there's only like a couple at the time. Literally by like October of that year, there were hundreds. February the next year, as the bear market began, everyone disappeared. It was back down to like 3 to 5 again. And then this year is pumped up as well. But again, some of the things we have seen with that is the amount of reach. When you start looking at all the different influencers, like the reach is crazy as far as people actually in the market spending money. So that's huge. But also, again, it was one of those things where some of the influencers at the time may have been very intellectual, but they're hiding. The market started to mature. People, I think for us at least, we were like, hey, I said, this is a big thing. I looked at some of the influencers out there. I mentioned Chris Dunn. Didn't really understand him initially. As I got into the space, I did. But my thing was, if I don't understand him, I know I'm an intellectual guy. The masses won't understand him. So for me and in Bitcoin Day, our thing was like, hey, let's do a YouTube and crypto channel where we simplify things. We have other channels now who do just mining. Another channel might do NFTs. So like you said, we're starting to see even the influencer space become more mature. You have people coming over from traditional Wall Street and trading sectors coming over like, hey, I have this knowledge, I can pair with this as well. So we are seeing it become mature. And with that, again, in this space, people don't like one of the reasons for this space is because people don't trust the traditional system. They don't trust traditional media. They don't trust traditional media, mainstream media. They don't trust traditional institutions. So in this space, people aren't going to CNBC to listen to them tell you to buy Ripple at $3 and some change, right? People aren't going to Fox News to hear them talk about Bitcoin after it's like at 30 something, $40,000. You're too late. By the time the mainstream gets it, it's too late. And the reason why is because most of these mainstream companies are owned and controlled by other billionaires who are on the legacy market. They're on Wall Street. They're not into crypto. So, and I mean, I'm with them. If I had a news organization, you're not about to talk Bitcoin when all my money's tied up in fiat, right? It makes no sense. But because of that, since they didn't want to talk, I mean, look at the United States government now. Bitcoin is $50,000. It was $1,000 in 2017, and our government still hasn't really mentioned it at all. You get what I'm saying?
I totally get it.
It's 50,000. We're not talking about it as a country. It's crazy. So that's okay. But I think it's one of those things where institutions and everybody, they might have got their heads so big, they forgot that people are people and we can do things in other places. But because of the way that the media and the government has portrayed or lack thereof portrayed Bitcoin, people had no choice but to go to YouTube, but to go to Twitter, but to go to some of these people they would normally never listen to financial advice for and follow them like us. People have followed us now for over 3 years and some change, 4 years. And they're start seeing, wow, these people know what they're talking about just as well as, or if not better than the people in the mainstream media. So that was one of the things that, again, the mainstream shot themselves in the foot. I think it's too late. Right now, we're kind of already seeing it. So big hand clap for the influencers and crypto people in the space. We're not making things up because my business partner himself, Bitcoin Day, Isaiah Jackson, he was just on Fox News twice in the last 2 weeks. He was on CNBC 3 weeks ago. So it's one of those things now. We said this would happen. It's starting to happen. It's only going to amplify. Where now mainstream channels and sources have to actually reach out to influencers, YouTubers, and Twitter people the same way these businesses and companies will also have to do. So this is what it is. This is the future, and it's here to stay.
You guys have the head start, absolutely, which is now the traditional media needs to catch up. So tell me a little bit more about you and actually the community that you run, and also what you and your partner have been up to, because a lot of the companies that we work with in the crypto space, they actually want to work specifically with you. And so I would love to turn that around and say, hey, tell me more about you and what your community is, and how can people work with you?
For sure, for sure. So early on, my business partner and I, when we partnered up, we initially thought we were going to start one of the first Bitcoin investment / hedge funds, right? Start off small family office, mom, dad, friends type of deal, until we found out that, hey, retail investors can't have hedge funds and investment funds, only accredited investors. We were actually told, we had some accredited people who want to come aboard, and we were told by through different channels, but coming from the SEC, hey, you guys do the credit, go right on ahead. The only thing was that the credit side of the deal, licensing and all that cost so much. It was like, you all are making fake barriers of entry to cryptocurrency that make no sense. So for us, we decided, hey, scratch the investment fund, which, by the way, this was in 2016. So go back and look at how many crypto investment funds were around 2016. I did the homework. It was only like maybe 8 tops internationally, like 8 to 16 tops around the world, not just the United States. So we were definitely early on that. We didn't pursue it because of the regulatory extremism. But what we decided to do, at the time, we're starting to consult, we're getting clients, people are asking the same question every day. And we were like, hey, how can we answer all these questions at the same time? And that's why we started our YouTube, our live stream, or our podcast. So as this starts to happen, we're working with different companies doing ICOs, we're working with people doing regulatory frameworks. I mean, we literally are putting our hand in every part of the space at the same time, giving that information back to our viewers and listeners. So now we've finally built up, we built up our reputation to the point we can have, quality guests come on the show and talk about their projects. And the cool thing about our audience is that while it may not be the largest for whatever reason, I think it's because we only do organic type of growth. Our audience isn't the largest, but almost everyone in our audience is an investor, point blank, period. And they invest a lot of money. We have the statistics on the demographics and everything. So that is the good thing about it. So what we offer and what we do is we have these companies come on, or just people in general want to talk crypto. We have Max Kaiser on not too long ago. And you see how excited people get about it. Some of the companies we had on in the past, like people are like, oh, I'm already invested, or I'm going to look at this project tonight and invest. So with us, you can kind of see like almost instant gratification. I hate to use that, but sometimes you can see instant gratification when you come on our channel and talk to some of our people. And last but not least, the great thing about our crypto warriors is that these people are everywhere. As an example, some of the warriors we've had from this earlier days, I mean, like when we first started the show, one guy is now working, he's the marketing guy at BRD for Bread Wallet. It's crazy. He actually got us the interview with their CEO. He was like, I've been a crypto warrior forever. You guys got me involved in crypto. I work for BRD now. We got a couple other people with some other ones. We got EOS people. Like we literally have people who come to our chats every day or YouTube every day who work with other companies in the space. So that's a cool thing.
That's so cool. And it's like these people live and breathe it, and they get these insights from your channel. So that's a good place to be, especially right now when there's so many projects, so many people don't know what's news anymore. That's the other thing, is that just the fact that this industry is growing and there's just so much noise is also meaning that there's the problem with fake news too. So I think that's another role that these communities, they trust the people that are running those communities to vet the news before it goes to them. So it's another form of gatekeeper that we're seeing.
And I'll say that's what's so exciting about this year. So again, we were hesitant 2016, 2017 to really work with a lot of companies. The scams are crazy. And there still are plenty of scams. We know that. But now, especially after the 2017 ICO craze, you've seen the SEC retroactively going after different companies. Like, hey, what you did in February of 2017, even though we told you that Bitcoin was fraudulent, we don't care about it. Yeah, we want our money, and what you did is illegal. So you see them going back. My point of that is, I know to some people who love and worship regulation, this is good things. There's like the space is getting cleaned up. whatever you want to call it. I will admit the space is getting a bit cleaned up through self-regulation and through regular regulatory means. But with all that being said, like for influencers like us, we are so open to working with these companies now and having them come on board because the United States is looking too now. You know, it was one of those things at first was like, the last thing we want is to have a company come over here, push a scam, do whatever. I mean, we saw that with Bitcoin. Trey, one of the guys down in Miami, he was pumping BitConnect for forever. And I don't know the ins and outs of his business. I don't know if he was in on it or like he knew it was a scam, or maybe he didn't know it was a scam. He lost money too. But I mean, he built his entire following off of BitConnect. Like it was a huge thing. And then BitConnect happened, right? So that right now, while it could still happen, I think if it were to happen now, like the United States would aggressively pursue those people. So with that being said, we're not as worried anymore about, oh, this one might be a scam or this one might be that, because it's one of those things was like, okay, if you are a scam now, even on YouTube, like the government's going to see this, man, and they're actually using this as evidence, right? So it's one of those things where we're more open to do it now because even companies know they have to come with everything together on the right track. And I think there's those less evil actors out there than there were previously.
Yeah, and even on like just to pull a relevant example, but I was listening to Laura Shin's podcast Unchained, and she was actually talking to some of the lawyers, kind of critiquing what Ripple is doing. And it's so interesting because yeah, Twitter posts are now, because they're timestamped, and it's the perfect place for evidence because it's coming from that account and it's timestamped, and it actually gives a historical context to say, hey, did he say something and was doing something in the in the background, because they have data and now they have historical context. So really interesting to see that. So I know we're running up on time. King Bless, I wanted to just have a last question. Is like, what gets you excited right now? Like what's in the industry, in the crypto industry, that keeps you up at night? What are you looking forward to right now?
One of the biggest things that excites me is the scaling thing. I mean, it's been an issue now since 2017, not just with Bitcoin and Ethereum, but just everything, right? Everyone thinks their project's the next big project, and then it's like, you don't have anybody using it yet. And then as soon as everyone uses it, they run into the same scaling issues, and everybody's like, see, we told you. It's like, these are technical issues. So for me, it's something like that. The technical side, I would say scaling. I want to see how everything scales, because whoever gets that right first, that will be one of the winners in the space. And everyone thinks they have it right until they actually have to use it, right? You never know you have it right until you have 10 million people trying to trade your token or do whatever at the same time. But the first thing would be scaling. And then the second thing, it kind of, in no order, but the second thing, it kind of falls back on my training, which is the PR side. It is the narrative. It is seeing, I mean, right now you see JP Morgan trying to establish a narrative about how they're in the crypto space. It's like, guys, the CEO called it a fraud in 2017. We just saw MasterCard jump on board. MasterCard, 30 million merchants are now accepting it or whatever for Bitcoin. And it's like, I remember covering a story, I think in 2018 and in like 2019, of MasterCard calling cryptocurrencies junk, right? So for me, that really excites me, is to see this narrative change, to see banks start coming on board. Some are still slow and dragging their feet, but they are coming. But to see banks coming, to see Wall Street coming, to see the government start talking about CBDCs and digital wallets, all of that excites me, because while it may not be the home run for Bitcoin, we call those base hits, because if you can get someone to use a CBDC, which they're going to do, right? As much as I'm against it, it's a base hit. You just got someone on first base, closer to scoring now when it comes to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, because as soon as they're on that first base and they learn about the CBDC, or they learn about Doge or whatever first, then they're going to keep looking, they're going to keep peeling stuff back, and they're going to be like, oh, wait, what's this? What's that? Then they're going to keep peeling stuff back and start looking at the history, like, wait, 3 years ago, you weren't even on board. Like, so these narratives excite me, because when we look back and you talk about like cryptocurrency, the first 10 or 15 years, this is going to be a movie, right? And all this stuff, I think, will be in the movie. You'll have that guy on stage at the BitConnect conference, BitConnect. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, that is exciting
stuff. You can't write that. That's exciting stuff in the space. So as crazy as some of the twists and turns are, I just love watching the narratives. I mean, again, when we started as partners, Bitcoin Zay and I, Bitcoin Zay was in the space 2013, 2014, already getting laughed out of rooms. But when we started together, we started getting laughed out of rooms together, right? Like, people are literally hanging up, phone us, what makes no sense. And then to see again 2 to 3, 4 years later to see someone like him on Fox News talking about the same thing we talked about from years. That's so rewarding, right? So I definitely enjoy the narrative.
Wow, thank you. And yeah, that's just hearing it from someone in the space that's been in there, grinding it out, is always in the front of the room. King Bless, thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge with our community. Definitely want to know, a lot of people ask, what's the best way to contact you? What's the best way to follow your story?
For sure. Thanks for having me first and foremost. And again, I am looking forward to working with some of the older and new companies in the space. Like, we would love to have you on review. We're actually thinking about doing a special segment from now on where maybe we do the reviews on a separate channel type of deal, where it's like an exclusive thing, because people are like dying to find out what the next big Bitcoin is, or the next Bitcoin is. So to find me for these businesses, you can email me at king@KirbyCrypto, KRBE crypto.com, or you can check us out on YouTube, The Gentleman of Crypto. Check us out there. I mean, we're at about 1,700 viewers per day now, so it's awesome. A lot of people are interested, and right now is the time. So we are welcoming all these businesses on board.
All right, King Bless, it was a pleasure chatting with you, and looking forward to connecting again at the next Blockchain Mastermind.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Ivan. I appreciate it.